We begin by observing Kilian, an illustrator facing difficulties as she receives the task of creating a romantic comic despite her specialization in the action genre. Each attempt to tackle romance ends disastrously, like depicting a girl expressing love by punching a boy. Her editor, Min, informs her about the deadline for the first draft, causing nervousness that hinders her creativity. Min explains that readers need to feel their hearts race when reading a romantic story, but Kilian doesn't understand since she's never experienced love. Min hands her several romantic comics and, while suggesting ideas, urges her to present the first sketches the next day. At the park, Kilian draws a heart and a friendly dog suddenly approaches her. As she gives it a cookie and holds its leash, the dog escapes, leading her to a bridge by the lake where she meets a handsome young man. Observing him, she finally comprehends what Min meant about heartbeats. When he asks for the leash, she naively shakes his hand. She tries to start a conversation, but he responds evasively. Suddenly, the dog causes them to trip, and their lips touch. He stops abruptly, leaving Kilian stunned on the ground. As he helps her up, he asks for her number, surprising her with a sketchbook an hour before leaving. He asks her to wait, and out of curiosity, he decides to stay. Half an hour later, Kilian receives a call and has to leave, leaving her number on a note stuck to a bench. However, the wind blows the note away. Meanwhile, Kilian creates a 2-page comic based on her recent encounter, impressing her editor with the charming dog and the unexpected kiss. The editor urges her to write more about the mysterious man. Remembering his request to wait, Kilian hurries back but unfortunately doesn't find him. Meanwhile, he arrives at his office as an architect and owner of a popular company, where his best friend and partner is waiting for him. His friend mentions a blind date organized by his grandfather, but he refuses as always, since his grandfather insists on being a matchmaker. That night, Kilian goes out to dinner with friends and receives an apology bucket of water from a drunken friend going through a tough romantic moment. Her friend, a university professor, realizes she's referring to Janin, the strict professor all the girls are in love with. Unknowingly, Kilian thinks about how to find him. At home, Kilian writes down everything she knows about Janin and his dog, asking her followers to inform her if they know someone similar. In a comment, she's told someone similar has been seen at the university. The next day, Kilian heads to the university and finds a girl taking photos. Asking about a handsome man, the girl immediately understands who she's looking for. It turns out this young girl takes photos of Janin and sells them to his followers online. At that moment, security guards spot her, but before fleeing, she reveals where to find Janin and hides a memory card in Kilian's bag. Kilian takes a seat in the class indicated by the girl and is surprised to see Janin enter. They stare at each other, and Kilian greets him, but he pretends to be distracted and ignores her. During the class, Janin presents a puzzle, promising that whoever solves it can ask him anything, confident that no student can solve it. After the class, the girls try to solve the puzzle, but all fail. Minutes later, Janin returns and notices Kilian has solved it. Surprised, he asks her to come to his office. There, Kilian notices the memory card, but Janin snatches it and inserts it into his computer, discovering photos of Kilian. She swears the card isn't hers. Janin asks how she solved the puzzle, and Kilian reveals that her father was an architect, having similar boxes all over the house, and she's been playing with them since childhood, so she knows how they work. Impressed, Janin accepts her explanation. For the reward, Kilian asks to be Janin's assistant. He agrees but imposes the condition that she must get him to call her by her name by the end of the month to keep the job, or she'll have to resign. Kilian thinks the task is easy but doesn't know that Janin doesn't call anyone by their name. Later, Kilian enthusiastically shares her progress and writes some comic pages related to recent events. She's thrilled with the idea of keeping the assistant position as it will help her generate more content. On her first day, she coordinates all of Janin's meetings while trying to get him to say her name. However, he keeps referring to her by her identification number. While they converse, the girl who previously harassed Kilian starts taking photos. Janin notices and approaches Kilian to distract her. Surprisingly, the harasser is Janin's cousin. He takes the camera and asks her to apologize to Kilian for placing the memory card in her bag. Initially, The cousin refuses but agrees when Janin promises to return the camera. After this incident, Janin enters to teach his class and finds Kilian under the podium. In Kilian's dream, she shows him a notebook with her name, and Janin bends down, whispering her name before kissing her. Upon waking, Kilian decides to make this small dream come true and hides under the podium. However, unlike the dream, Janin immediately asks her to stand up and sit down. Despite this, Kilian doesn't lose hope and continues trying to get Janin to say her name, even putting her name on her shirt and changing her computer's wallpaper to her face. But Janin keeps calling her with invented expressions and avoids saying her name. The next day, Kilian is informed that Janin won't be coming to the university for a few days due to work, leaving her with a lot of tasks. Kilian worries that when he returns, he might forget her name. Talking to Janin's cousin, she discovers that reputation means a lot to him. Determined to do her best as his assistant, Kilian completes all tasks perfectly. When Janin returns, everyone praises Kilian's excellent work, from the janitors to the professors. Later, they meet outside in the rain, and Kilian hopes to be praised. However, a car passes by, splashing them with water. Janin takes her to the faculty room and provides dry clothes. After changing, Kilian asks if he remembers her name, and he questions her true intentions. In a moment of stumbling, Kilian falls on his chest just as Janin's grandfather enters and catches them. The old man says he has arranged another blind date. In a panic, Janin tells his grandfather that Kilian is his girlfriend, but the old man doesn't believe him and asks him to say her name. Kilian encourages him to do so, and unable to avoid it, Janin says her name. Kilian adds to the lie, assuring she'll always take care of his grandson. After the old man leaves, Janin accepts his defeat and allows Kilian to continue working as his assistant. Kilian is happy to be with the man of her dreams and to be able to write more of her comic, while Janin secretly enjoys having her as his new assistant, showing that even a cold, arrogant professor has started to fall